Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unboxing Work, where we take a peek inside the work boxes of successful people. Today, we have Jill from Tangerine Design with us. Jill is going to tell us a lot about her work, and we are going to ask her questions and see how she gets work done. Jill, welcome on the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Great to have you. Well, for those who are watching this for the first time, I'm Carl. I am a project management expert, and what I do is I help people organize their work so that they can get work done faster, more efficiently, and with less stress. But we know that everyone has processes, so it's great to learn a little bit about people's processes, learn a lot about themselves, and in the process, we'll have some good laughter and some good jokes. Hopefully, so Jill, I think it would be cool for you to just share with us your role. I know it's one that I wasn't familiar with until I met you, so would love for you to share it with us.
Okay, so Tangerine Design. It's a residential. I'm a residential design specialist. Okay, so what that means is I do basically what an architect does, but if you're not licensed as an architect, you can't call yourself that. So it's like calling yourself a doctor, and you're not one. You can't do it. But it is what I do. So I do the drawings for a lot of residential projects. I'm looking at projects as far as code goes, that's for life safety welfare, and making sure that things are done correctly, making sure that it can be built, it actually can be constructed, things like that. I am not an interior designer. Interior designers do things with fabric and furniture and wall treatments and things like that. So I'm very much in what normally is a male role, dealing with contractors, dealing with construction, things like that. But I bring a different take because I'm a woman and I'm thinking about things differently. I'm processing things a lot differently than say most men do.
That's awesome. Can you share a little bit about that? I know I have a next question for you, but that really actually unboxed something for me. Tell me a little bit about that. We could get deeper into it later, but tell us a little bit about being in that world as a woman.
So it can be challenging. A lot of people, if I come out on a job site, they kind of look at me and go, "Oh, the girl's here. She's going to talk about pretty things." And I don't. I talk about code and I curse like a sailor, so I can keep up with the boys in that sense. But again, I'm talking about the building. How is this thing getting built? Why are we doing it this way? What makes sense? Sometimes people say, "Oh, I just want a door. Just put a door anywhere." Well, if you put a door anywhere, maybe you can't furnish the place very well. Maybe the access that you're giving it, you're making more circulation than necessary. So there's ways to think about things so that it makes more sense. It's efficient. Um, the flow and the function of the space works better. And again, that's a lot of what I bring to the table. I'm thinking about the end user. When you furnish it, when you put furniture in a room, when you use the room as it's supposed to be used, does it work? Does it make sense? So it's a lot of that. Whereas a lot of other people, they just like, oh, a bedroom. It's a bedroom. Just put furniture in it. Don't worry about it. Well, if you don't have a wall that can handle a headboard, then where are you going to put your bed? Those kinds of things. And you'd be
Yeah.
surprised how many people are building spaces. And I walk in and I go, this doesn't make any sense. So it happens.
So it sounds like your job is pretty technical, but you're using the code, and you can flesh out that a little more, but you're using the code that's given to you, how the building code, how things should be built to actually enable design, right? You want it to be functional, you want it to be safe. It sounds like you're doing a lot of that to make sure that you're providing your clients, the right design. And then they can say, okay, now we can be creative now that we know that our design, our architecture is up to code. Am I getting it right?
Right. So again, all cities, states, counties, different things like that, you have a specific zone that you're in, and zoning dictates what you can or can't do, meaning how much you can put on your piece of land, how much building
Mm-hmm.
you can put, how tall it can be, how close it can be to property lines, things like that. Um, and then within the building for life safety welfare, you have to have windows in bedrooms, you have to have certain size doorways, there has to be certain clearance spaces that have to happen. And some of this is imaginary, it's invisible, and you don't see a clear space. But I know there's supposed to be a clear space, for instance, in front of a toilet. If you don't have clear space in front of a toilet, how are you going to stand in front of it? How are you going to sit at it? It's that kind of thing. But there's no drawn out line that says, don't build within this space. But there is on my drawing to say, the wall has to be a certain distance away. The door swing can happen in that space, but something permanent can't be in that space. Okay. So it's a lot of teaching people what you can do, what you can't do, and then, does that align with what they're asking for? So I'm that person that kind of comes out and says, okay, I hear what you want to do. However, your code, your zone, different things say we can't do that, but I can see, because I have experience, I can see that you can do this, that there's a different way to do it. And a lot of times it's a better way to do it, because people are kind of boxed into, well, there's the door, I have to do it this way. And I'm like, door doesn't have to stay there, door can move. So we can make things happen.
So the 12-year-old in me heard drawing. Are you drawing out these designs, so you're letting folks know, okay, this is what you came up with. This is what I think. Like, tell me a little bit about that drawing part.
Yep. So the way my process works is I do things in stages. I do a phone call first. I go out and meet with them and I talk. That's all I do is I talk. And I actually bring with me some folders. I can get to those if you like.
Oh, we will.
I bring with me some folders and I explain the process. This is what it's all about. This is what we do in construction. This is normal. This is typical. This is actually how this process works. And then if they decide to hire me, I do a design phase. And yes, I actually go back to the house. I take measurements, physical measurements. I don't just stand in a room and shoot a button and let a computer or AI take care of it. Sorry. I actually go around with a measuring tape and with a laser measurer, and I measure it. Now, part of the reason I do that is I don't live in this house. Okay, this is an unfamiliar house to me, but I have to draw it. I have to, understand it. So in that process of measuring it and getting to understand it, heights, distances, where things are, I get more familiar with it, so that when I am back at my computer, I can still imagine being in that space. Oh, it was really high ceilings. That's right. Or it tilted one direction, or the sun came in really bright in the afternoon. So there's things about it that make sense for me to not just go in and do it quickly, but go in and really understand the space, so that when I draw it, I'm remembering that, refreshing that, and then I can go and do some designs for it, expand it, change it up, do what needs to be done. But that's an important step. And again, a lot of people are like, oh, why don't you just use your phone? It'll measure it for you. It's not the same.
Yeah, you're adding more connection to it as you measure with the measuring tape and the laser.
Right.
Well,
And I don't accept other people's drawings either, because I mean, it's so funny. I can look at a drawing and look at the space and go, these are wrong. And inevitably they are. They've missed something. The wall jogs, the window isn't as high as they have it on their draw. There's something askew. And I go, nope, it's a nice reference, but I'm going to do my own.
You just do it from scratch because now it's reliable. Everything was drawn at the same time by the same person.
Right. And I know what I measured to. Some people measure just the door. Some people measure the door and the frame or the trim. So, so there's different points at which they measure. But I'm very consistent, and I know how I measure. I do it on graph paper. I use what I call kindergarten pens, with different colored pens, and each color means something different, so that I'm not confused. If you draw a 1, an inch mark, a hash line, a random line, all in the same color, you don't know what it is. But I use different colors to mean different things, so I can understand my drawings later. So there's a lot that's put into it.
So Jill, the one thing that is super obvious here is that you're really passionate about this. You've already come down to the pen and you measure everything yourself. I could tell you are like amped. You're passionate about this. So I want to know, how did you get into this work? Like,
Uh,
how did you
yep.
get here?
A long, long time ago. So originally, way back when in high school, I wanted to do something in art. Okay, I have a creative gene in me, and I thought, anything in art that would be great. And back in the day, prior to computers, there was a class, a drafting class, and you could go in there and draft different things. And one of the things that we did in that class was they gave us a test where they had a shape unfolded, and you had to imagine how it would look once it was folded up. So it would become a box, or it would become a triangle, or it would become something.
Mm-hmm.
And that I could look at that and just go like bing 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 bing. I just didn't see it. I was in the matrix. And even my teacher was like, "You can't possibly be done this that fast." And I'm like, "I'm done. Like I'm done." So that was a bit of it. And again, I liked art. I went into commercial art originally because I thought architecture was too hard. It was a lot of math, again, prior to computers. Um, so then I was married, and about 4 or 5 years into marriage, my husband was like, "Why don't you just go into architecture?" And I'm like, "All right, baby." So I did night school. I got into architecture, and another big part of it was I would look at houses and wonder why things were the way they were. Why did they do this? And why did they do that? So I knew I really liked it. Initially, I was just afraid to get into it, but once I got into it, no turning back. I love it.
The turning back. That's awesome. That's awesome. Sounds like it was you were going to end up there
Right,
at some
right,
point. The way it seems to have like
right. And
uh
I will say this too. I've likened it to my brain works a certain way. Okay, and doing different things. Maybe it's okay over here, and maybe it's okay over there in a career. So in advertising, I was in advertising. It was okay. Doing artwork, it was okay. But man, architecture, like that's it, because it's a lot of what if. Well, what if you do this? Well, what if you do that? Well, what if you change this? And what if you change that? And that's how my brain works. So a lot of it is just sort of who I am. And to me, I feel like I found the right path for how my brain works. It's easier for me. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it's easier for me because that's how I think anyway.
yeah.
I need a box, a parameter to a certain extent. Artwork, it could be anything. And that's too vague for me. I like to have a box, but then within that box, I can be
Yeah.
really creative. So
Yeah.
that's where I thrive.
You know what? When I got my first job out of college, I was trying to network and get to meet as many people as possible. And I went to a meeting with a leader from my organization, and she told us for the younger folks who were there, you are not gonna change the world with your weakness. You're gonna change the world with your strength. So you improve your weakness enough so that it's not your Achilles heel, so that it doesn't slow you down or stop you from getting that job. But what you're going to change the world with is with your strength. So you got to lean into those things. It sounds like that's what you did. You're like, my brain works like this. I like this. I'm going to do it. So I think this next question is probably the hardest question I'm gonna ask you. Since you seem to love your work, what part of your work brings you the most joy? If you had to tease out one thing that really gets you excited.
Yeah. It's not my tagline. However, I say it a lot. I like to educate and inform. Okay, so I like to help people understand what's happening, what's going on. Do they need this? Should they not do this? How does it work? How does it function? Those kinds of things. I mean, mostly as it pertains to architecture, but honestly, I do other things as well. I do pickleball. I teach pickleball clinics, so that's another area where I'm like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. I should help you. Um, I like to help people. And again, this is my way of helping them. I can't be a doctor. I can't be a nurse. I'm not good at that kind of thing. I don't want to be a firefighter. I don't want to be a police officer, but I still want to help people. So it's kind of my way to help them and save them from a lot of different things. Spending too much money, wasting time, getting caught doing something wrong or incorrect, at finding out later on they should have done it a different way. There's a lot of those things. I don't like regret, so I don't want people to have regret with what they're doing. So
Oh,
again, I
yeah.
want to explain a lot of things to them to say, did you know? Are you aware? If you do it this way, this is going to happen. So again, I try to, it's all part of that, educate them and inform them so that they can make a decision. It's their money. It's the homeowner's money. It's the homeowner's house. I should not be coming in there and making decisions. Of course, I want you to do a remodel. Of course, I want you to build on. I'm going to make money from that. But really, I want you to make the decision. Is this right for you? Is it right for your family? Is it right for the area? Those kinds of things. And if it is, I'm happy to work with you. But if it isn't, I'm happy to not, because
Yeah.
it's not a good idea for you. And to me, that's being a better professional, is offering them and allowing them to make that decision, as opposed to, kind of badgering them with, you need to do this. Yes, you should do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody that makes money, wants to do that, but you kind of shouldn't. You should still, give them the option to, yes, this is still right for our family, even though it's going to cost us more, or even though it's not going to get us our money back. And that's fine. But if you don't know that going in, that doesn't feel too good.
But that's the best professional. You sound like the best professional. The person who is not looking out for them, they're looking out for their clients, they're informing them so then they can make the decisions without regrets or without, lack of information. And when you look out for them, they will, you know, in they will definitely look out for you. I'm losing the word here, but yeah, they will definitely look out for you, because like, hey, this person looked out for me. I'm going to refer them. And I was just talking to someone the other day, even with the chat GPTs and the AI, and when we could look for all the best answers, if somebody gives you a recommendation, a word of mouth, recommendation referral just trumps everything. Like, oh, I have these 3 restaurants to look from. It's like, oh, I've been to this one and it was good. Case closed. I'm going to that one because my friend said it.
And
That's it.
I get people, there's a lot of different ways they can find me. Of course, referral is good. Repeat business. I've just
Mhm.
recently have had 2 or 3 people contact me that I have known for 10 or 15 years now. We met, they're a client. We met 10 or 15 years ago. Um, Maybe I did the project for them. Maybe the project wasn't quite right for them then. And they're contacting me now saying, okay, I think we're ready, or we're going to get back to it, that kind of thing, or we've got a new
Mhm.
project. Um, but a lot of people come to me because they've read reviews where, again, I've been helpful. I have phone conversations with people all the time, and I never help them as far as do a drawing, meet with them. It's just a phone call to say, you know what? You don't need my services. You need this person's services, or what you're trying
Mhm.
to do isn't even possible. So don't spend your money with someone that, is going to tell you otherwise. I'm telling you, I'll read you the code right now if you want.
Perfect.
You can't do that, that's not allowed. So don't let someone talk you into it, because they're lying, and
Yeah.
that's not good. I don't want to be lied to. I'm a consumer as well,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to be lied to. So again, to me, it's good karma. You put the good karma out there, it'll come back to you in some way, so that,
Yeah.
you don't get screwed over by whatever that is.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. And for
And
those of us who are curious about the business model and trying to understand your work, so when do you make those big bucks? When do you get paid, right?
that,
How does it work? Sounds like you have different stages, right?
yeah, I do.
And you're a very giving person. Like, help me understand this world that you work in, and how
Okay,
you get paid.
so my normal process is, someone finds me somehow, some way. Okay, they email me, text me, call me, whichever that is. Right away, I'm either responding to them saying, look, this is what I offer. I offer a complimentary 20-minute phone call. Those sometimes turn into an hour and a half, because we're talking about things, and I try to keep to 20 minutes. But I get into it. I get passionate about it. Um, and what I do is I ask them for their address. And what I have is what I call an intake sheet. And I write down some information, their name, their phone number, things like that, their address. And then I look up some things. I look up what is the size of their home, square footage wise, bedroom, bathroom count wise. I look up when it was built. I look up when they bought the home. What was it worth? What is it worth now? All those kinds of things. Then I have that phone call with them. Okay. And we talk about, well, what do you want to do with this addition? Or what are you trying to add to your home? And those kinds of things. And if it seems like a good fit for them and for me, I then do what I call an on-site assessment. Now, it's very specific assessment. Okay. It's not a consultation. A consultation is kind of where somebody comes out and they look around and they go, yeah, we can do something. But you don't know what that is. And I tell people all the time, I can tell you that over the phone. We can do something. When I come out, I am assessing what you can or cannot do. So on that same paper, I am writing down some zoning information. If you're going to do an addition, I need to know how much we can grow this home and where, so that when I meet with you, I have a real conversation. I don't have time to talk about, well, if this, maybe we can do something. What's the point of that? Why did I come out here? I want to know. We can go out 10 feet right here. We can only go out 5 over there. So that's not going to work for you. So let's focus on this. And then what can you do in that 10 feet? So it's information. I tell people all the time, meet with as many people as you want. But in the end, if you haven't learned something about your property and what you can or can't do, it really wasn't worth your time. Okay? That's what's going to happen with me. I'm going to come out and I'm going to teach you something about your property that you know what you can or cannot do with it. So whether you work with me or not, you have learned something. Now, I charge for that on-site assessment because it's worth my time to come out, do that. But what I do is I credit that fee that I charge to a design contract, should you sign one with me. Okay, for me, that's a little bit of an incentive for that person to work with me. But for you, hey, whether you work with me or not, you've gotten a lot of information for not that much money. Okay, some people get into these projects $10, $15, $20,000 and then find out they can't do what they wanted to do. I can tell you that in less than 800. Okay, so and prices vary depending on time, distance, things like that. But for not that much money, I can give you a good sense of what you can or cannot do, and does it make sense for you? Again, educate and inform so that you make the decision. And I have people that decide immediately, I'm hiring you. We're working on this. I have people that go, oh, this was a lot of information. I don't know if we can do it. And they
Yeah.
wait a few months, they wait a few years. I have people come back to me up to 4 years later for that particular project to say, now we're ready. I might have to change that because I've got this one that just contacted me. That's been 12 years. So it's been a while. And again, a lot of it is I'm giving you information that you didn't know about that you need to maybe do some homework on. Are your taxes going to increase because of this? What is the payment you're going to need to make on something? How much does this cost? Those kinds of things. And if that's not part of your budget or that's not part of what you expected, then maybe, you need to do some research first before you move forward.
So sounds like you got this locked down. You understand, like you got the business part locked down. You understand that you have to give them a value right away. And that
Right?
value makes them say, oh, I'm gonna get more value from this person who's not just trying to, be here for an hour or 30 minutes, right?
Right.
And you're also giving them information so that they can make decisions. So they're getting the value from the information, but it's allowing it to go forward. And then lastly, I heard from you is setting the expectations like very
Right.
early. Okay, we can do this, we can do that, we can't do this. And that probably starts adding timelines, right? Depending on what you can or can't do and knowing what's going on. So I
Right.
feel like our listeners are getting a free business course
Right.
here from
Yeah.
you.
Right. I mean, you can apply this to other things, possibly. But
Yeah.
I've been in my own business. I'm celebrating 20 years this year. So I've been doing this for a good long
Woo!
time. Yep, yep, yep. And I've been in this trade for 28. So, I have been around. And another part of this is though I went to college for art school and things like that prior to getting into architecture, my dad's in construction. All my uncles are in construction. So I have grown up around construction projects, whether it's at my house, whether it's at, aunt and uncle's house, things like that. So I'm familiar with those kinds of things. And again, I get it a lot. People will say, "How do you know how this house is built? How do you know?" And I know what they're saying. They're saying, "How do you, a girl, know how this house is built?" And I go, "It's my job. It's my job to know this." And to me, it's very simple. It's easy. I can liken it to a skeleton. So a house, the framework is like a skeleton, and you know what? Your shoulder bone is always in the same spot. Your spine is always in the same spot. I mean, things in houses, they're kind of always in the same spot. And I can see that. I can understand that because I know how things are built. So it doesn't matter how much, roof is on there, how much, material is on the building. I can still see the skeleton of that building and understand how it's built. So I know what's load bearing. I know what's not. I know how things are put together. So I can talk to you about that in reality. It's not a guessing game.
Yeah, yeah. And it sounds like in the process, you may be changing people's minds, in a bigger scale. As you said, folks might be expecting less because you're a woman, but now you're like, hey, I know this, and I know this even better than whoever else they brought. I'm guessing sometimes you'll have multiple assessments or multiple takes on it, right? Multiple opinions, and they see you and they're like, oh, maybe my biases were wrong, are wrong, and I should think about this in other things. Do you think that happens a little bit?
I know it happens. So I get a lot of women calling me. The woman of the house calls because she's tired of that kitchen or she's tired of, whatever that is. And she calls, she makes the appointment. I come out. The husband typically not too excited. They think I'm there to sell them something. They think I'm there to, it's going to cost them a lot of money. I'm going to tell them to do more than what they want. And it's the complete opposite. So when I come in, I go, okay, you don't need that. Or, why do you think you need more space? You've got all the space here. Or why do you think you need a high ceiling? It's going to cost you a lot of money to do that. That doesn't seem efficient. There's certain things I'm going to say. And I kid you not, by the end of the meeting, the husband is like my best bud. He's so excited that I came along and explained the process and explained, what's beneficial, what's not, those kinds of things. Now, it's not to say that the woman is disappointed. She's not, but she now can understand it better. Maybe someone was trying to explain it or just said, "Oh, you don't understand." Or you're not going to understand this. It's just going to cost too much. Well, try explaining it. Just talk about
Yeah.
it. And even, I'm not trying to stereotype people here. Even some men don't get how houses function, how they work, and they're doing things very inefficiently, very clumsy, very, not the way that we live. And I just kind of come in very gently and say, well, that's not how we normally do it. However, if that's how you'd like to do it, let me point out a few things that maybe won't work for you there. But we can maybe make an adjustment, maybe make it bigger, make it smaller, certain things like that, so that they still, get their vision. I'm not a hard and fast, you have to do it this way, but I will tell you what the norm is, and then how
Hmm.
can we adjust from that norm? Like, we can do that, if that accommodates you. But if you're trying to do something quote unquote normal or standard, and you're not doing it that way,
Yeah.
I'm going to point it out. I'm going to say, that's not how we normally do it. We normally do it this way over here.
Well, it seems like you're a breath of fresh air and you're changing folks' biases. And I can raise my hand as a guy who does not know how homes work. I have to put changing a light bulb on a calendar to make sure I do it. And I will fix things. And we're not even talking about the structure of the house. Never, never. I'm talking about basic things in the house. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? I think I'm a solver. I can look at things and start to understand where I see the problem, but there's no way I could know how it should be, right? If I talk to someone, I could be like, hey, this looks a little off. And it could be that that's actually how it was built, Carl. Or it's like, okay, it's really crooked. I can spot that. But I feel like it's some men, or I should say, take to sleep like they know things just for the sake of like, oh, I looked at it and that's should be my role. I should know it. When it, most things are science, and if you don't study it, you don't know it.
So I'll give you an example. So think about a bathroom. Think about your typical bathroom. There's a tub shower combo, okay? There's a toilet in there somewhere, and there's a sink in there somewhere. And I'm saying somewhere because I'm going to explain the difference. So typically, when you come into a room, you open the door inward. Well, if your toilet is the first thing, the toilet is longer. Okay. And also if someone happens to be on the toilet and you try to open the door, you're going to whack their knees or potentially be really close to the toilet seat. So typically we don't put the toilet first. We move that into the middle. We put the sink first. Why? Because the sink is shorter. It doesn't stick out as much. So even if someone is at the sink, you could probably still open the door and not hit them. So there's just certain ways that we lay things out that makes sense. Obviously, I can't put the tub at the front, because I don't want to walk into the tub and through the tub to get to the toilet and sink. But I can tell you, I've had people where you have to walk through the bathroom to get outside. That's the way to get outside. And I'm like, what is happening? Why are we walking through the bathroom to get outside? Now, you can have an outside access to a bathroom, but not as your only means to get outside the backyard. And I've been in a couple of houses like that. So there are just ways that, all right, that's probably not going to work. But I get what you're trying to do. You want access from the outside. Let me do it here, but we still need a door somewhere else. I don't want to have to wait for the person to be done in the bathroom so I can get in or out of the house. You know?
Yeah, yeah. I
But
definitely feel like I don't want no any entry or exits from the
right.
bathroom. That's why
Like
I'm like,
if you have a pool, right? If you have a pool,
okay, yes, that makes
in
sense.
that
That
case,
makes
yes,
sense.
I don't want to be dripping wet from the pool, traipse all the way through the house, especially if you have wood floors to get to a bathroom. Okay, so
See,
yes, that makes sense, but it doesn't make sense for it to be the only door. And
yeah.
say, you're bringing out the stuff for the grill through the bathroom. No.
This is terrible. Well, I'm gonna pivot us to talk about processes, and you've mentioned the word process at least 4 times already. And one thing I love is a good process because a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, a lot of work projects just find a synonym fail because they don't have good processes. It's not the people, it's not the situation, is that the process was not prepared for it to handle that situation, or had tons of errors, or needed someone to be a superhero all the time. So I know you have a ton of processes, starting with your pen and going through the folders. Let's pick out one process that you're proud of and you want to share with us, your process from idea to execution, or the entire phases. So one process, take us through it so we can understand how you work.
Okay, so being organized. Okay, so in the early stages of my business, I didn't have a whole lot of business, so all I could do is work on my process. So I got very creative. Again, the intake sheet
Mm-hmm.
that you know goes into folder, and you'll notice I have two different kinds of folders. I have an orange folder and a green folder. If I happen to have meetings on the same day, this is the daytime folder, daytime meeting. This is the nighttime meeting. Okay, so it's a quick visual. I'm all about visuals here. Um, as you can see, I'm going to point over here to some holders, folder holders. So over here, we're starting at the beginning. That's where all my empty folders are, ready to go with the paperwork inside. Okay, and my little business card and stuff. They're all ready to go. So I just pick one up and go. And the intake sheets are there. Once I have an appointment scheduled to meet with them, goes in the next. Once I've met with them and they want to do design phase, it goes in the next. Once I've done design, and I do a phone review, goes in the next. And it just goes down the line. Okay. And then you'll notice here, there are folders that are blue and purple and different colors and red. So that's things like this. It's these kind of multiple, pocketed folders. They have a color. Well, guess what? In my Gmail, I have labels that are that color so that when I see their email and I need to find their folder, if it's
Mm,
purple, I only have to look at the purple folders. If it's blue, I only have to look at the blue folders. I don't have to look through 30. I look through 5. Okay, so it's an
yep.
easy system because they're all in different stages, right? So it's a process. And then I'm old school. I've got some spreadsheets. I keep my time on pieces of paper, on accounting paper, because I didn't want to have to turn on my computer to mark down how much time. It's just one of these things. I was like, oh, I don't feel like doing a computer. I want to do it on paper. Um, so I have different methods to track everything. What stage is it in? How did they find me? Okay, that's a big thing in business. If you want to put money into advertising, you want to know
Yep.
where you should budget for things. Okay, I'm on a lot of different sites for free. It's not very good to be advertising with some companies because it doesn't get you anything. So I'm on a lot of these things for I don't pay for advertising. My reviews speak for myself. So you also have to ask for reviews and get them from people. And sometimes what I'll do, I've done it once. I pre-wrote it. I said, "Hey, here's an example. If you agree with it, just copy paste, put it in." And they were like, "Thank you. This is so easy." And they did it.
Yeah.
I don't really like doing it that way, but for them, I thought they were busy. Maybe it'll work, and it did. But most of the time, it's just people, saying what they want to say about me, and it's the truth, of whatever. She helped us. She did that. That's great. You tell
Yep.
your story, and somebody else will probably be able to relate.
So having that process seems to keep you organized and helps you move faster, right? Which moves faster for them and keeps your costs down and not spending time being lost, right?
Right. If I get a phone call and they say, "Hi, I want to talk to you about a remodel," I do this. I lick my finger and I grab a paper and I start taking notes. Just
Yeah.
okay, what's your name? Where did you find me? Da da da. And it's a process. So I don't have to think about it. I don't have to print stuff. I don't have to. Oh, I can get back to you in an hour. I can talk to you right now. I have a folder in my car. If I'm in the car, I pull over.
Guys.
I pull out my folder and I go ahead, start. Because I need to write things down. I specifically don't have my phone such that I can answer it in the car, right? I don't
Mhm.
answer it because I need to write stuff down. I can't, oh, yeah, what, talking to you and driving, that's too distracting. So I just don't answer it. I'll pull over, answer it, or call you back and say, hey, you just called, you wanted to talk about something, go ahead. And I've got my paper there to write down my notes so that I remember what questions to ask as well. So that's a big
Now,
thing in business is knowing what to ask, when to ask it, what not to ask,
yes,
those kinds of things.
yes.
Mhm.
Now here's the question you know I was gonna come with.
All
Have
right.
you considered bringing this to the digital world? Having, digital folders, they could be the same color or voice to text, keeping the notes. What have you thought about? And this is not saying one way is right or another, but
Right.
have you thought about changing the process or and making it more digital?
So I'm a little old school. The thing is, this folder is what I give to a client.
Mhm.
Okay. And it has about 20 pages of information in here. So I'm giving it to them. Sure, I could give them a PDF. I could email it to them. But you know what?
Mhm.
We get a lot of email. We get a lot of stuff, and it's going to get lost. And I actually physically go over these different pages with them at the meeting. And it's a takeaway. It's a tangible item. And I'm expressing that word tangible because that's actually how I came up with my name for Tangerine Design. I literally sat there and went, something tangible, and that doing that, I came to Tangerine Design. I'm a redhead. I don't know if you can tell on there, but I'm a redhead. That was another reason. Hey, it's an orange color. I have
Yeah.
orange hair. It fortunately works out. I like the Giants. I actually do work for the Giants as well. So that's their orange color. So there's a lot of things, like I said before, about color, about association, remembering things. People remember my name, Tangerine Design, because it's not like anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's people say it was a fruit. It was citrus. It was what was it again? So, they may not remember it exactly, but they know it was different and they remember me. And again, I'm pretty different. I haven't run into any other architect, designer, anybody that does the stuff that I do. And they tell me that too. They're like, you do things way different than anybody else I've ever met. And it's because it works for me. This is how I do things.
Taco.
But as far as process, I mean, again, some of the stuff, some of the little spreadsheets and things like that I have, that's about as digital as I'll get. Because I kind of want people, and again,
Yeah.
it's a bright color to see this. And I mean, this one's a super bright color. To remember, the meeting we had, the talk, it's paper. You can look at it, you can write on it, you can mark it up. It's a little bit, again, more tangible to me than something on the computer.
You know what? I think we shouldn't do things just for the sake of doing it. Well, this should be digitized,
Right.
or because it can be, or it's convenient for me, but
And then,
not for my client and not for the business. Because
or
I
it could
completely
be
agree.
it could be convenient for them, but it doesn't stand out.
Yes,
So
yes,
you're just another PDF. You're just
yes,
another email. But this is not just another, meeting kind of
yeah.
a, this is something that sits on your desk or, you put in the pile to read or something like that. This is going to stand out more than that clutter of email that you've got.
I agree. I feel like it will stand out. You can walk them through it instead of like, hey, let's scroll, like bring a laptop here. We like you can go page by page, you can mark things, they can point it with their fingers. It's always weird to point on a screen and not wanting to scratch someone's screen. So I see that. Here's the other question I'm going to ask you. Have you considered sending both the PDF and giving them the folder?
I could, however, I specifically don't, unless there's some sometimes I do a Zoom. So sometimes I'm physically not there. So I will. But I also ask them, please do not share this with anybody. Okay. This is my bread and butter. I go on meetings, I talk to people. Part of it is I want to talk to you. I want you to hear what I have to say. I want you to understand what I'm saying. I don't want you to just hand out these papers and go, yeah, read this. It'll make sense. Because you know what? It may not. Or it may not make the sense I want it to make for you. Okay. Because sometimes things are different. And that's why, again, I go over that paperwork with them and explain the process. Some of it's general, but some of it is specific. Oh, this thing, this is what I was talking about when we talked about such and such. Oh, this thing, that doesn't really pertain to you, so don't worry about it. So I'm giving them information again as I go through that paperwork. Whereas if I just blanketly hand it out and say, read it whenever you want, it's not going to make as much sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. And as you were speaking, I noticed how you change your the volume of your voice, your intonation, how you're very clear. Do you find that that helps you with, explaining what needs to be done and highlighting things? Because it's definitely doing it on this call. It seems like you're intentional with everything you're doing. Is there something about your delivery? You're like, hey, folks, I want to bring your attention here and there. Is that something you've worked on or is it natural? I've asked multiple questions here.
It's more so natural. But I will say I have said this to people before. I could give you this folder. I could explain everything to you and say, okay, now you go and explain it to the homeowner, and you could understand it thoroughly. But I think I'm a little bit of the secret sauce that comes to the table that gets people to hire me. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, maybe it's my expression, maybe it's my passion. Here's the thing. I have been doing this for 20 years. maybe do anywhere from like 60 to 100, depends on the year, on-site assessments. Okay.
Wow.
So we're talking into, the thousands here. It can get up there. And I talk a lot, but I try to, with every client, understand that it is their the first time they've heard this. It's the 900th time I've heard it, but it's the first time they've heard it. So I have to have some passion with it. I
Yep.
have to have some
Yep.
excitement about it. I have to point out certain things that really, sort of make a difference and make it exciting for them, and not just like, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do that. And, because that's how it might seem to hear it for the 900th
Yeah.
time. But to them, what do you mean I can't do this? Or what do you mean I can do this? They want you to be just as excited. So I try
Yeah.
to bring that. I try to be, in a sense, empathetic to what they're going through. I've been through remodels. I've done remodels. I've spent my own money and made mistakes and gone, why didn't somebody tell me? So that's what I'm trying to do for them. I'm trying to help them. I'm trying to tell them and explain to them, this is important, or don't worry about that.
That's
So
awesome. That's
it
awesome.
does affect.
That's awesome. Sounds like you celebrate with them, right? You're going through the journey, you're putting yourself in their shoes. You mentioned, being empathetic earlier. Just like, okay, if I were them, how would I want to hear this? And what would I want to know? And how would I feel about this? And sounds like that is also part of your secret sauce, right? Being able to do it and doing it genuinely. That I think that's a big thing. You can sometimes see when folks are faking it, but with you, that energy is real.
Right. And again, I'm not a salesperson in general, but yet I have to sell myself, my business, what I do all the time. All the time. So, though I don't consider myself a salesperson, because in my head a salesperson is more whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, I want you to buy this. It's a whatever it takes.
I
And I'm
love the voice you're
like,
doing.
don't do it. Don't do it. This is a mistake. You don't, please don't even hire me. It's not going to work for you. I really want to educate people and inform them that,
Yep.
this may not work for you. And my feeling on it is, again, if I've done you a service, whether that is a monetary, turned into a project kind of a service, or I've done you a service by saving you from wasting time and money, that you will return that favor at some point. You will say
Yep.
to somebody, oh my gosh, we didn't work with her, but she gave us some really good information. Why don't you at least have a conversation with her and see if what you want to do works or not? That's really all I want, is just to have that
Yeah.
conversation and find out. I don't want to do work with people that I know it's not going to work out. Why, to me, why would I do that? But there are a lot of people out there that will take on a project knowing this isn't going to work, or this isn't in their budget, or whatever that is. So I have to sleep at night. I want a clear conscience as to, yes, I did you a good service. I explained it. It may not have been
Mhm.
what you wanted to hear, but you needed to hear it because nobody else is telling you the truth. And I get that a lot on the phone call, the initial phone call. Wow, you explained so much, and that was just the phone call. And I said, yeah, can you imagine what my on-site assessment's going to be like? And they're like, wow. So, and that's what it
That's
is.
awesome.
It's
That's
giving
awesome.
them information.
That's awesome. Well, hard pivot here because this is your favorite. This is your favorite topic to talk about. In fact, actually, I think you might have a good take on it. How is AI changing your work?
Uh, in many different ways. Um, to be honest, some of it is just annoying. So every time I open up something like my email, it's like, here's a suggestion. Here's how you can write this. Okay, these 20 pages, okay, except for 4 of them, because they were 4 lists that I totally stole from Hal's. they had some remodeling lists. And I thought, oh, these lists are great. Let me just print them out and pass them on. And I explained to people, I didn't come up with that list, but everything else I wrote, I edit, I look at, I've written my contract. I write up my emails. I write up everything. Okay. I'm not yet in that brain of like, let me go to ChatGPT and see what it says. I really think about things and try to, even in an email or in something that I'm not speaking about, that I'm sending, I read it out loud. Okay, that comes from advertising. In advertising, we were supposed to read things out loud, make sure we had it in the right place and all this kind of
Yep.
stuff. So I read it out loud to myself, and I go, "Oh, there's a typo. Oh, I said the wrong thing." And or that doesn't make any sense, because again, if you know something, it makes sense when you read it, even though you've left out 6 steps, because in your brain you're filling in the missing steps because you know it. So again, I try to get in that mode of, I've never heard of this before, I don't understand this, and this person's writing to me, what are they saying? And I read it from that point of view and I go, well, that doesn't make sense. It went step 1, step 2, step 6. Huh? So then I go back in and I fill in. So yes, AI can help. It can do some things. Like I said, you can take your phone and spin around a room and it'll measure for you. But did you become intimate with that space? If it's my brain that has to then design this thing, I want to be intimate with it. I want to understand where things were, the volume of it, the size of it, the echo, everything about that space. So
Mhm.
it's about the senses, not just seeing it, but hearing it and touching it and feeling the space. Okay, I'm not tasting it. But um, you know, is it cold? Is it hot? Is it, these kinds of things matter because it's going to make me think later, gosh, that room was really hot. I shouldn't put any more windows in there, or I shouldn't put a skylight in there. It's going to be sweltering. But if it's cold, boy, that room could really use some warming up. Maybe a skylight, let some light in, maybe a window on this wall, things like that. That, to me, it's the intuitive stuff that can help. I mean, AI is a tool, just as AutoCAD. I use AutoCAD. We used to hand draft, right? I mean, it was my one boss. He would always come down the stairs. He'd say, "I want to see asses and elbows," because that's what you would see when you were drawing. You see asses and elbows. So that sticks in my head still. But these days, I use a computer. It's AutoCAD. It does the math for me. It does calculations. It's easy. So AI will do the same, but I think there's still that human part of it that you need to bring to it to say, how is the space really going to feel once you put the paint color on the wall, once you put a window shade on a big window? If I do this all the time, when clients say to me, back bedroom, our primary bedroom, this is where we're going to be, and we want a nice sliding glass door to go into the backyard. And I go, what are you going to do with that sliding glass door? You're going to put a curtain over it. Why? Because you don't want anybody to see what you're doing in there, day or night. So is that really the best place to put it? Maybe not, because you're constantly going to have a curtain shut and it's going to feel like a wall. It's not a glass opening. It's a shut, dark room because the pool is right there or the play yard is right there. So maybe we put the door on a quieter side, a more private side that you can leave open, that faces the woods, that faces, maybe not a fence, 2 feet away, but, faces something that's not so public or your children, and you can keep the window or door open, meaning no blinds in front of it, that kind of thing. So again, there's things to kind of think about in rooms. It may seem convenient, but in reality, that's not how you're going to use it. You see in magazines neat and pretty and clean rooms. Who lives like that? There's laundry everywhere. There's shoes everywhere. There's crap on the counter. You don't live in a pristine world. And it's the same thing with that. We don't live with the window shades up and the doors wide open and things like that. we end up closing them, and all of a sudden we're in a dark box, and it doesn't feel so
Don't let my girlfriend hear you.
good.
We live in a pristine room. It should
Hey,
be
there's a
clean. And
few.
if it is
There's
not
a few.
clean, you are working on cleaning it. The
Right.
dirtiest thing in the room is me at the end
Right.
of the
Right.
day.
Right. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
I try to stay organized, but what's not on camera is the clutter. So, over here, somewhat organized, but
Yeah.
that's just normal. It's just normal.
Looks pretty good. Looks pretty normal. Now, we're coming to the end, but I'm curious to hear about what you're curious about when it comes to other people's processes. You've been running this business for yourself for the last 20 years. It's a two-part question. What are you typically curious about learning from other folks, or maybe corporations or businesses that are doing things differently? And then if you are curious, how are you getting that information? How are you staying connected with others in learning their processes?
I mean, I'm gonna have to claim ignorance to a certain extent, because quite frankly, I feel like for me, my process works for me. I don't need to know how yours works. If yours works for you, great. If it doesn't, guess what? I'll show you mine. And I have had many people come over. This is my office, but it is in my home. I've had many people come over and from different industries and look at my system and go, wow, yeah, I could apply this to mine
Mm-hmm.
because it works. Just be organized. Um, I think only my sister, I have an older sister, she's about the only other person that's a little bit more organized than I am. So it's rare that I'm asking someone, hey, how do you do this? Or how do you do that? It may be a technical question. How do you do this? How do you do that? But as far as organization goes, I'm usually the one telling them, oh, you can organize this better. A couple of tips for you. So I tend to be doing it more that direction. And again, that kind of came with like the pickleball thing. I'd watch people play and I'm like, oh, you need some help. Let me help you. And it's just that I pay attention. I'm aware of things. And again, that's how my brain works. And that's very good in this job, in this business, is that if something changes or gets affected in the architecture or building, it most likely affects something else. So you have to constantly be paying attention to all the pieces and parts. You move one thing here, boom, six things just changed. So you have to think many steps ahead. So it's kind of the same thing with the organization. I could have a folder and that be it. What would I do after that? Put it in a pile? Then where's that folder? Where's that client? Where's that? So it's a process. It's going to go from one step to the next to the next. Follow it all the way through to the end so that no matter where it is in that process, you can access it. You can find it, whether that's in your folders on the computer. I have my folders within each job. They're all set up the same way. Every folder that I have, all of these are all set up the same way. Intake sheet, contract, drawings, and then what becomes new over here. I mean, every folder I open up, I know what's on the first page, I know what's
Yeah,
on the fourth.
exactly. Yeah.
It's the same system, doesn't change. So
Now, sounds like you have your processes for work. You got that down. And sounds like your new thing, well, I'm saying new, I'm guessing it's newer than work,
mhm.
is pickleball. Tell me
Yep.
a little bit about pickleball. I'm sure someone's watching this and probably heard you mention
I,
pickleball at the start.
I
They're
gotta
like, can
tell
you
you,
hurry
I
up and
can't.
get to the
I hurt.
pickleball?
So again, it's just one of those things where I just notice people and they don't quite know how to play, so I'll offer help, or maybe it's fourth, 2-and-2 play. So sometimes they have three people. I'm like, hey, do you need a fourth? That kind of thing, and I'll help them. And I'm pretty good at explaining things. I'm pretty good again at getting in the mindset of, hey, I used to not know how to play, and that didn't make sense to me. So how can I explain it to them such that it makes sense?
Yep.
So a friend of mine last year about this time said, why don't you teach classes? And I thought, can I? Like, is that something I can do? And sure enough, I did. I started teaching them. I teach them at Willow Pass in Concord. I also now am teaching at Indoor Pickleball X, which is the indoor space in Concord. And it's about the game. I am teaching you the game. So, what are the rules? What's the terminology? What are the manners? You can't look up
Really?
manners in the rule book, they're not in there. Okay. But there are certain things that you should do or not do on the court. So, I'm
Hmm.
explaining that to people so that new people, when they come onto a court, they don't piss us off. Okay, because there's things that you can do that will upset people that are playing. It will disturb their game. So I explain that to you. So now, as a new person, you're being respectful, you understand, and they will welcome you in. Doesn't matter your skill level. You know,
Yeah.
you're okay. You're new. Let me show you some things. We'll play with you. Whereas if you've pissed them off right when you walked in the gate, they don't want anything to do with you. Okay, skill level or not. They would be like, ugh, that person's rude. Well,
Yeah.
you didn't know. How do I know? There's no sign that says don't do this or do this. So that's the kind of stuff that I explain to people to say, here's just protocol. Here's how we do things so that moving forward, you can pretty much go anywhere and join in a game.
How long were you playing before you started teaching?
So I've been playing for about 7 years now. And my
Right.
son and I used to, I went and I learned the game for the most part. And then I taught my son, and he was like in his teenage years. But really, it was just the two of us. And we did whatever the hell we wanted. We just played the game for fun. We played the game more or less to keep playing and not, kill each other with it. But then he went away to school and I had to, play with other people. And I quickly realized I have no idea how to play this game because I was doing everything wrong. So I had to unlearn all of the stuff that I had, basically gotten into a habit with. I had to unlearn all of that and start again. And again, I'm a stickler in my business in architecture. I'm code. It's the code rule. It's a zoning thing. So I'm a stickler for that. So on the pickleball court, wait, what's the rule for this? Wait, how come you can do that and I can't? And I would want to know. So I'd
Yes.
start to look stuff up and I'd start to understand, oh, that's the rule. Now, when I'm at the courts, it could be 6 courts down. Jill, what's the rule for, and I have to tell them, oh, it's this, it's that, it depends on the situation. But, I try to inform people, educate and inform. It kind of comes back to that. So no matter what I'm an usher at the Giants. I educate and inform the fans
Uh,
as to what they can or can't do or where to go for certain things. So it's just part of what I like to do. And I just have
yep.
found different avenues to be able to do that, to be able to share that, in whatever format.
You're a walking encyclopedia for at least three things now. I guess we'll wrap it up with this. It seems like I might have an answer, but I want to hear what your friends would say. So, if I were to ask your friends, your closest three friends, what would they say your superpower is?
Probably something along the lines of, to one sense, no fear. Okay, I'm afraid of a lot of things. And I, was used to be very shy, very concerned about like, oh, are they gonna like me? Or oh, I don't know that information. Now I don't give a rat's ass, and I will walk up to somebody and be like, hey, can you explain that to me? Because I don't understand it. Or, hey, can I talk to you about this? And I don't care anymore. Again, I meet people a lot, so I'm not afraid to talk to people. I overhear things all the time. Standing in the grocery line, I'll overhear something. Hey, I heard you need such and such. I know somebody. Um, it's more that, just I'm paying attention. I'm listening. I try to offer, some kind of advice, sometimes not asked for, but I'll still offer it. So I try to watch myself on those. Um, but again, it's that kind of being helpful, being somewhat, they would say this. I don't think this, but they say, gosh, you're so courageous. You're so, like I could never do that. And I'm like, just do it. Just like again, that old saying of all they can say is no. Okay. And you have a 50-50 chance. It's a yes or a no, right? So it's one or the other. I got to tell you, more times than not, it's a yes. And more times than not, it's one of those things where, again, I don't want to regret not doing something. I don't want to say, oh, I should have said something, or I should have asked that question, or I should have talked to that person, made them feel comfortable. So I just do it. I think about it and I go, I'm doing it. And I just make a beeline and I do it. And again, I meet a ton of people at the Giants. I meet a ton of people at pickleball. I meet plenty of people through my business. And guess what I do? I talk about all of them, okay, in whatever format I'm in. So I'm my own marketing person for my other businesses, okay? I if I go see a client for architecture, their home, and they have something of the Giants, guess what we're talking about? We're going to be talking about those Giants. If they have the Dodgers, guess what we're talking about? How I hate the stinking Dodgers, but it's something to familiarize people with so that they feel more comfortable, right? You're more comfortable when you're having sort of a casual conversation than just, this is what you have to do, this is what you need to do, and it's all business. I'm very little business. I'm much more casual. I'm much more friendly. I'm much more, just this. You get Jill every time. Every time. It's not a
Every time.
show. It's not pretend. Again, sometimes I'm very blunt. I'm from Philadelphia. I'm very blunt about things. I'm not as PC as maybe I should be, but hey, that's Jill. That's just what you get. So there's no fake. There's no pretend. There's no let me put on a good show. You're gonna get me, and you're gonna like
um,
me or not.
I
There's
think
no
people don't. I don't think most people end up liking you, and I would say, speaking for myself, I love folks who are straightforward. I love when people are like, "Hey, this is who I am." There's
right,
no,
right,
there's no other coverings or other layers. I mean, there might be
right,
layers to your personality, but
right.
it's
Well,
very
it's one of
transparent
those
who
like
you are.
if you met me in a work setting, and then you met me at pickleball. Oh my gosh, she's a totally different person. Nope,
That will.
same same person. So,
uh,
again, just I don't have the time to like compartmentalize, oh, I have to be this way here, I have to be that way there. I'm just this way. And again,
yeah.
it's not everybody's cup of tea. I could probably not make it in corporate world today. I'm too opinionated. I'm too, I'll tell you a short little story here at the end.
Tell me.
COVID came. COVID came. I worked for myself. I thought, oh my
No.
God, I'm not going to be able to, put food on the table. I had a son and I'm not going to get self-employment, not self-employment, but unemployment. So immediately I went out and I got a job. I worked at Safeway. Okay. No bust on Safeway, but boy, whew, not a whole lot of pay, and hard work. So I went from working at home to working on my feet all day, 9 hours a day at Safeway,
Wow.
packaging things. And it was just one of those, it was a realization of like, oh my gosh, like this is the corporate world. You had to ask everybody about everything. And I really couldn't take it. I just did my thing. And I got away with it because I did a good job, because I was efficient about things, because I got things done in time.
And then,
I was there for 2 months. Okay. And in that 2 months, I worked in 3 different departments. And they specifically asked me, please go to that department and organize it and straighten it out. Because I did it at the first one. And they're like, wow, you did such a good job. Can you do that over there? And I'm like, yeah. So I went over there and I organized the crap out of that one. And they're like, can you do it over there? And I'm like, yeah. But then my business started to pick up again. And I said, hey, I've got to go. Managers, they did not want to let me go. But I
wow.
was like, I mean, I can make in an hour what I make here all day. It's
And
just, I
that's,
mean, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I also likened it to Undercover Boss, that TV show.
yeah, yeah,
Where,
right. I've seen
you
it.
know, right, you kind of come in at the ground level and you see how things are done. And I'm like, things are not done well here at all. And part of it is because you're not paying people. You
Yeah.
know, people don't care. It's not their career for the most part. But I looked at it like, you know what? I'm here. I have a job to do, and I'm going to do it, damn it. And I'm going to do a damn good job. And that's what I did. Didn't matter how much I got paid. I was going to do my job. And I tried to be helpful with people. You know, if I saw somebody going down an aisle, like looking around, I'd say, "Do you need help? Can I help you with something?" Again, I do that at the Giants. I'm used to doing it, but isn't that nice when somebody
Yes.
notices that you
Yeah.
need help? You know, I hold the door for people. No, go ahead. It's okay. Yeah, I am a woman, but I can still hold a door. It just, again, the basics of things, manners, all that stuff. It's really helpful. And again, to me, it's karma. It's going to come back. If I'm nice to them, they're going to be nice to somebody, and it's going to eventually work its way back to me. And won't that be more pleasant than,
You're
somebody yelling at me? So, but that was definitely an eye opener during COVID. But again, it's,
Same.
you gotta step up to, whatever you're put up against.
Well, Jill, it's been wonderful hearing from you, hearing your stories, hearing about your courage, your fearlessness. I guess your friends would say your processes and just overall energy, that the energy that you bring to work. And I think that I would say that's part of your secret sauce. You bring the passion and you bring the energy to your work, and you couple that with your organization, and voila, yeah, a great recipe. So thank you. Is there
Appreciate it. Thank you for letting me share and talk about it, because I am. I'm very passionate about what I do, and I never thought I was. In my head, I thought passion. Oh, that's only like in love stories, or that's what that's for. But I mean, I get intense and incredibly sort of worked up sometimes over the smallest things, but it's because I care, or it's because I want it to be right. I don't want to waste time. I don't want you to waste your time and money, those kinds of things. So I'm gonna speak up. I'm not gonna hold it back. And I will say sometimes, I hope I'm not being rude. I hope I'm not, overstepping my boundary, but I'm gonna say something because I think it needs to be said. And again, then you can do what you want with it. You can ignore it. You can take my advice. You can think about it. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen. But if I never say it, you don't know, you know? So I'd rather say it and take the risk of potentially offending someone or potentially overstepping, as opposed to not saying anything and then going, "Oh, I could have told you that." But I hate that.
like yeah. Well, I hope that I can build up that courage, because I know sometimes I do that, and sometimes I'm like, not worth it.
Right.
And I just stay quiet. Sometimes
There can
that,
be
that
those times. Yep, there can be those
I
times.
feel like I have more of those than you based on our conversation
Right.
today.
Right. But for me, it's, I'm not afraid of, ticking somebody off, we'll say. So I'll say it. But
Yeah.
if you're afraid of offending them or afraid of certain things, that's okay. It's not everybody's cup of tea. But again, this is Jill. This is what Jill does. So Jill's going to say something and she may, go overboard, but that's what she does. So it's okay.
Thanks for coming on the show, Jill. You have a
All right.
great
Thank
one.
you.
Thank you for listening, folks. Have a good
All
one.
right. Bye bye.
Bye.